If you've ever worked with the WordPress text editor or tried to show your clients how it works, you'll know that it's not the best, not the most user-friendly sort of interface. I mean, other than doing bolding and block quoting and things like that, and maybe for inserting images, it's okay, but it's pretty basic. There are some things you can do to help improve that if your client really needs to have more control over the look of their particular posts and pages. The first plugin we're going to look at here is TinyMCE Advanced. Now, TinyMCE is the program that runs this text editor. It's used all over the web and on various pieces of software, and WordPress is one of those. Now, this is what the button bar looks like sort of by default and with the kitchen sink. I've obviously got the kitchen sink button turned on here. Let's go and we're going to activate the TinyMCE plugin. And now you can see there are more buttons. In fact, there's 3 rows of buttons now. And we can control everything on here now. That's one of the nice things about having this plugin is not only do you get more choices, but you can control them more easily. So if I go down here to TinyMCE Advanced, and here's where you can add more buttons, including support for tables. It works fairly well. I don't find it the most intuitive to use. Citations, lines, all sorts of things, no break spaces. Very easy to add all of these things to it and move these off the button bar and so forth. So you get a lot of control over that. And it'll do things like this. If we go back here, for example, and we take a look at this, here's a perfect example. Now on the regular button bar, this is what clients tend to look at and go, oh, I want bigger text, so they choose this, which of course is not about bigger text, but about semantic structuring. It does involve larger text as a result of that. But if you're strictly interested in font size, now they actually have the ability to do that. So that's a very handy feature right in itself for giving better control to people. Now, one of the other really useful features on this is this button here called Styles. Let me just add this in here. And I'm going to save my changes. And we come back to Add New, and there's Styles. Now, one of the advantages here is that it allows you to choose styles that are in WordPress. These are built-in styles. Now, you can add to these. It's possible with customization to add to these. And that can be very helpful because it allows your client to use CSS styling, but in a very simple, easy to use way. All right, let's take a look at another of these plugins. This one is WP Table Reloaded. This is to help you create tables. And I find this an interesting approach they've taken here. If I click on these, you actually create the tables here on this interface. And then you insert shortcode into your particular post or page. So you could actually reuse the table several different places, which I think is very interesting because there could be situations like that, or at the very least you just use it once, but you manage it easily from here. Now, I have a 5-row, 5-column table that I had created here. I can just enter my information into each one of these, work with my information in a very easy to use way. I can do all kinds of things, hide rows, combine them, move them around. And again, they have to insert a shortcode. And finally, let's take a look at a fairly new trend, but a growing one, that makes use of shortcodes once again. So immediately there's a drawback there. This is called JShortcodes. And there's really not much to do on here. And one of the things I wasn't keen on, that they don't have a good sample of all the possible shortcodes. They do on their website, but you have to go in and remember them. But let's take a look at this. So I go in to edit this post, and what I do is I simply insert this in here. Square brackets for our shortcode, JBox, and I put the ending code here, of course, with our backslash. There we go. So let's update it. And I go to here now and refresh it. Look at that. It's converted it into a box. Now, this is a default styling. You can control this. And you can do all sorts of things with it. But again, you've got to use shortcode to do it. And again, it's more of a learning curve. And I love how they say in the plugin, it says, you just have to remember the shortcodes. Well, that's a lot of work for people. Some people are starting to experiment with doing things like putting those shortcodes into buttons on the button bar here. I haven't seen anyone actually do it. I've seen it in tutorials on the internet, but I think that's going to be the next stage for people to do this. Again, make it as simple as possible for the client. If you're into it too, you could create custom buttons on these bars as well to add on and make it easier for your clients. But anyway, these are a few options that give you a little more control over the way text is laid out and designed in WordPress.